All eyes on West Asia as tensions soar. Israel bombards eastern Iran. Strikes and counter-strikes intensify. Iran responds, says war forced upon us. World on the edge as crisis deepens. Israel-Iran conflict rapidly escalates. Top focus on 5 Live.
Good evening and welcome to 5 Live. I'm Pooja, Shali. This evening I'm going to tell you about why the West Asia conflict is so significant. Can it drag India or Indians at some level, and how is the USA, other countries looking at it? We'll be tracking that and more. From Cyprus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is en route to Canada right now. This is going to be very interesting and important. The G7 summit that Prime Minister Modi is set to attend after he received the invitation, and Prime Minister Carney is going to be, at least that's the hope, different from Justin Trudeau. This will be the beginning of a relationship. Visuals on your screen. He's in Cyprus presently, from where he's departing after a very significant meeting on trade, cooperation, economic development. But geopolitics and geography will play a big role in how India and Cyprus can become the big friends. Also from Cyprus, he heads to Canada for a 2-day summit. Indian diaspora eagerly waiting in Calgary in Canada to already receive him in Alberta. And then from there, he heads to Croatia on the way back to India. So the big 3C, three-nation tour, the first leg concludes. Very important. Now remember, this is with a friendly nation. Cyprus was one of the first democracies to be able to condemn Pahalgam massacre, take a strong stand in support of India and against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. In fact, it had said that at the European Union level delegations, it will raise the issue of cross-border terror. One of the reasons is Cyprus also faces a territorial dispute with Turkey. Turkey, the country that unabashedly supported Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. So that's the visual on your screen. Leaving from Cyprus, Prime Minister Modi then heads to Canada. Will be very important in how interactions with the G7, and at a time when the West Asia conflict has witnessed escalation like we haven't seen before between Israel and Iran, it will be crucial of how the USA, other European nations are interacting and discussing. A brief conversation with the Indian delegates on ground before he heads out. Pranay Upadhyay joins me for the latest on that. Pranay, it was considerably a brief visit to Cyprus. How significant do you think this is? And then, of course, the big G7 summit he's attending.
3 important takeaways, Pooja, from this important visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Cyprus. He spent around 24 hours in Cyprus. There, he received the highest civilian order in Cyprus. The president himself not only received him at the airport, but also gave lunch, dinner, and he took him to the Green Line. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visiting the Green Line, which is the mark of the territorial dispute with Turkey, because in Cyprus there is a Turkish Cypriot and the Greek Cypriot. So that is the line which divides, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi going to any such position has its own significance. Third very important thing, that this visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi has strengthened the defense partnership between Cyprus and India. Last year, India and Cyprus signed a defense partnership agreement. India has placed its defense attaché there in Cyprus and in Nicosia, and after this, both the countries will be participating. Fourth very important point, as far as Prime Minister Modi's visit is concerned, that Cyprus, by its geographical location, is in the Mediterranean Sea, and it is part of India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. So the corridor which was signed during the G20 summit held in India in September 2023, that was the agreement where the Haifa port of Israel was also linked, Mumbai port of India was also to be linked, and Saudi Arabia, UAE were all to be benefited out of this IMEC. Unfortunately, because of the Israel-Hamas conflict and the Western Asia conflict, that corridor couldn't fructify or take its own shape.
Correct.
But whenever that corridor will take place, will take shape, Cyprus will
and
be
then,
an important point.
After this, now that he's departing for Canada, I'll be looking forward to the relationship with Mark Carney compared to how it was with Justin Trudeau. But again, like you're mentioning, because of the West Asia conflict, at a time like this, to be at the G7 summit.
Absolutely, Pooja. But if you see, since we are talking about the geography of this area, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not far from the Haifa port, which was targeted, the Haifa city, which was targeted by the Iranian missiles yesterday night. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi being in that close vicinity of that area, in the Mediterranean Sea, has its own significance. But besides the Cyprus visit, Prime Minister will also be going to G7 summit, as you rightly mentioned. He would be flying from. He has already embarked upon this journey, and he will be reaching Calgary. This is the first, interaction with the world leaders. He will be having, face-to-face interaction with the world leaders after Op Sindoor. Prime Minister Modi will also be sharing dais and a room with the US President Donald Trump. I'm sure there will be a direct interaction between both these leaders. We will see what happens, as far as their interaction is concerned, because whenever Prime Minister Modi met President Donald Trump, we have seen their chemistry. But post Op Sindoor, what happens, and how will President Donald Trump change his opinion or his rhetoric as far as brokering a peace deal between India and Pakistan is to be seen. But besides that, if you see the entire constitution of G7, this is the 51st G7 summit happening in Canada. And India is one of the big economy, which is not part of G7 grouping, but has a bigger economic strength as compared to many other G7 member countries.
Pranay, keep tracking the latest on that. The three-nation tour from Cyprus to Canada, then Croatia, very crucial when it comes, at least at a time when the Israel-Iran conflict is escalating. And how? Gaurav Sawant, our managing editor, joins me right now. Gaurav, in fact, is right now in Canada. Prime Minister Modi about to reach in the next few hours. Gaurav, how is the mood on the ground vis-a-vis the Indian diaspora? You've been interacting with them. But in the backdrop of the Iran-Israel conflict, the significance that this visit to Canada and G7 also assumes?
The significance is when the most powerful seven economies of the world meet. India is not part of G7, but they realize that to steer the world forward, you do need one of the most powerful economies of the world, which is India, the fastest growing, the fourth largest, and the one that shows maximum promise. So all of that does indicate that India has the potential and is seen as one of the drivers of global economy. Now, if we were to talk about the images that our viewers are watching of Cyprus, now the Cyprus visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi again is extremely significant strategically. The first by an Indian Prime Minister in over 2 decades. You'd recall the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Cyprus was Indira Gandhi in the 1980s, and then Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2002, and then Narendra Modi in 2025. So it's strategically important, diplomatically important, economically important, and geopolitically it's so important given the way we've seen how Turkey has supported Pakistan and India has actually taken such a principled stand. Look, there are, like I mentioned, deep historical ties between India and Cyprus. Indira Gandhi had visited it in 1982, Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2002, and now Narendra Modi in 2025. And look at this as also a counter to the Turkey-Pakistan axis that's developing. Remember recent Operation Sindoor, how Turkey sent weapons, including those drones and drone operators, to Pakistan. Remember, Cyprus has a long-standing conflict with Turkey, which goes back to 1974, when Turkey had invaded Cyprus and had taken over a part of their territory. What is the message that's being sent out? The Prime Minister has visited the UN-controlled buffer line, that green line. So what's the significance? That India stands in solidarity with Cyprus against Turkish expansion. If I may also look at the number of weapons that India is now supplying to the region, that again sends out a very important signal, Pooja.
Very important. So there is a multi-layered approach here that we are looking at that India will also take with regard to the visit to G7. So that's the big meeting. Gaurav Sawant is on the ground in Canada. And Gaurav, looking forward to your coverage from the country. In the next few hours, stay tuned. Gaurav will have us updated on what's happening in Canada. So I want to first begin the top stories, the images that are coming in, shocking to say the least, both from Israel and Iran as the conflict is escalating. Look at this eyewitness footage on your screen coming up. Thick plume of smoke rising next to an oil refinery plant. This is in Haifa city in Israel. So Iran has shot these ballistic missiles that hit the Israeli territory. Search and location operations are underway in Haifa. We're told that 30 people have received injuries. Emergency authorities have said dozens of first responders rushing to the strike zones. Again from Haifa in Israel, fire trucks seen at a major oil refinery in Israel's northern city. Few hours after an Iranian barrage of missiles hit various locations. Israel's oil refineries have already given out a statement saying pipelines and transmission lines in Haifa have been damaged by the Iranian missile strikes, though no injuries, no casualties reported. More Iranian missile attacks on Tel Aviv, leaving widespread destruction. Look at this. Various residential buildings have been hit by the Iranian missile strikes. Israel military have said it has detected more missiles launched from Iran toward Israel. At least 10 people in Israel have been hit and killed, including children. As a consequence, Israel's main international airport, the Ben Gurion Airport, remains closed for departure and arrival. Military of Israel and Iran are trading strikes. Airspace over Israel closed on Friday as well. Remember, Israel and Iran are currently trading missile strikes and how. So Israel for now has shut its Ben Gurion Airport until further notice. What about Iran's statement? The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that his country has no intention to develop nuclear weapons. It will pursue its right to nuclear energy and research. So Israel struck at largely significant military nuclear targets in Iran. In turn, Iran retaliated, striking even Tel Aviv, the port city of Haifa as well. There were casualties reported. Residential buildings have been hit as well. And now, the statement that has come in from Israel is that Tehran will have to pay the price. Here, looking at a report of what's unfolding in West Asia between Iran and Israel. This is now a direct confrontation between the two countries.
A devastating wave of missile strikes from Iran. Loud explosions were heard in Israel's Haifa area as some of the Iranian missiles slipped through Israel's missile defense, hitting civilian areas. Israel and Iran launched fresh attacks on each other, killing scores of civilians and raising fears of a wider conflict. Eyewitness images showed thick plumes of smoke rising next to a refinery plant in Israel's Haifa. Iran struck both Tel Aviv and Haifa overnight, killing at least 5 people, increasing Israel's death toll to over 33. Fire trucks were seen at oil refinery in Israel's Haifa after an Iranian barrage of missiles hit various locations across the country. Israel said its pipelines and transmission lines in Haifa have been damaged by Iranian missile strikes. Several residential buildings in a densely populated neighborhood of Tel Aviv and Petah Tikva were destroyed in a strike that blew out the windows of hotels and other nearby homes. Meanwhile, Israeli army released a video which showed a strike on military site in the Iranian capital of Tehran. Israeli Air Force also identified and eliminated surface-to-air missile launch troops seconds before they reached the launchers south of Tehran. The Israeli troops were eliminated and the launcher was destroyed in Israeli strike. Israeli Defense Forces also precisely struck command centers belonging to the Quds Force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian military. Israel said in these command centers were hubs of Quds militia operatives planning advanced terrorist attacks on Israeli cities.
אנחנו פה כי אנחנו במערכה קיומית שהיום מובנת לכל אזרחי ישראל. תחשבו מה יקרה אם לאיראן...
We are here because of an existential war. Think about what would happen if Iran had nuclear weapons. We embarked on a war of salvation against the threat. Iran will pay a heavy price for the killing of civilians. We will strike them. We will deliver them a crushing blow. They will feel our might.
מעל שמי איראן תשלם מחיר יקר מאוד.
Iran has now also said that its parliament is preparing a bill to leave the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and that Tehran remains opposed to developing weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, world leaders continue to push for de-escalation in war.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
I spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu today. I reiterated Europe's commitment to peace and stability in the Middle East. In this context, Israel has the right to defend itself. Iran is the principal source of regional instability, and we've always been very clear. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon.
The West Asia war widening and threatening to engulf the entire region. Bureau Report, India Today.
Right, joining me now from the newsroom, Ankit Kumar, to tell us more about the satellite images on what has been found, confirmed, what has been hit. Sandeep Unithan also joins us for a perspective on what this conflict is now looking like, considering it's a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran. Ankit, I'll come to you first. Take us through the images that you can confirm to us that have been hit in Israel, in Iran, and how it's looking like right now in West Asia.
Well, Pooja, on Friday when Israel started the aerial raids on Iran, within hours, Pooja, within hours it managed to take down the almost entirety of Iran's air defense systems. But then question is, why is it that the war is not over yet? Because the Israeli Air Force have complete freedom over Iranian airspace. The answer to those questions, Pooja, is in these images. I want you to focus on this part of this picture. You see this mountain? This is a missile facility. This is a missile facility at Kermanshah. This picture was taken earlier today, supplied to us by Maxit Technologies. Now, at the edge of this mountain on your screen is an entry. This is an entry gate to the missile facility. Now, the problem that Israel has been facing is, while it can bomb all these areas, you see, these parts have been destroyed. You see, these are destroyed buildings in Israeli Air Force's raids, but the problem that the Israel Air Force is facing is penetrating through these mountains, these underground missile facilities. That is the key problem IAF is facing. I want you to see another picture. This is a nuclear facility. Remember, the core question is not even missiles. The core question is the nuclear facilities. Now, all these auxiliary buildings, Pooja, they have suffered damages. They have suffered damages during Israeli raids. You see this building, this has suffered damages. But that is not the problem. The key question is this part, this underground facility. We will go back in time. This picture is 22 years old picture. 22 years ago, this is how this facility looked like. You see, it's not underground, but today it has gone underground. Now, I will show you one more thing in this picture. This was taken earlier today. After the bombings, what Iran has been doing, it is now doing the patchwork above the underground facilities. You see, these marks are created because of the heavy movement of trucks, and this soil, this new soil has been used to cover up those patches. So the problem that Israel, despite attaining complete dominance over Iranian airspace, that they are facing is how to penetrate through these dozens of underground facilities, which include nuclear facilities, which include missile facilities. Pooja.
Very interesting. So there are possible nuclear facilities, military targets, oil refineries that have been hit as well, and pipelines that we are talking about that connects the corridor. Keep tracking all of this and more, Ankit, because this is definitely an escalation that since 2023 has emerged now. So you're looking at the visuals, confirmed. There have been casualties on both sides. the number higher as Iran claims from their territory. However, as of now, it appears ballistic missiles and attacks and strikes happening on both countries, trying to intercept as best as possible, but it has hit different buildings. Amid all of this, as we look at these shocking visuals on your screen, new claims have come forth. This is very interesting, suggesting that Iran may be attempting to pull Pakistan into the West Asia crisis. How can Pakistan be dragged in this? Mohsen Razai, a senior member of Iran's National Security Council and a commander in the IRGC, is alleging that Pakistan had vowed in support to Iran that there could be a nuclear response if required against Israel if Iran was ever directly attacked. Now, the direct attack has happened. Will Pakistan come in with a nuclear response? Pakistan, under pressure, in many ways exposed for the kind of pledge it had appeared to have taken for Iran, has denied the claim. They are now saying that the world is fully aware of Israel's nuclear capabilities. Pakistan reiterating it does not want to pursue hegemonic policies against the neighbors.
And in the past few days, all the Arab countries called and said, "We support you." Pakistan said, if Israel wants to drop a nuclear bomb, we will drop a nuclear bomb on Israel. The feelings of Muslims in the region will be extremely high. The stronger we act, the more our people will act in solidarity with the armed forces. We will cross this pass. On the other side, there will be an ocean of political, military, economic progress, God willing, in front of our nation.
Now, this is where it gets doubly interesting. Israel, you must know, and I want to take you through these pointers one by one. Israel has never officially confirmed or denied that it has nukes right now. While remember that Iran's nuclear program has been widely known, criticized, debated. Widely believed by experts and intelligence, though, that Israel has nuclear weapons. But the estimated arsenal, believed to be about 80 to 200 nuclear warheads, hasn't really been clear. Now, according to our sources and our research, nuclear program in Israel began in the 1950s and 1960s. But there's never been an official confirmation, and that lack of clarity brings to the fore what can happen. Unlike India, Pakistan, where there are treaties that have been signed, there is a certain clarity on what kind of nuclear arsenal that is. So why would Israel not want to disclose the nukes? It is because, remember, there are treaties that are bound by very strict conditions. And that is where international sanctions also come in. Preserves alliances, gives you a diplomatic flexibility. It may deter the enemy also through a strategic ambiguity. These are psyops often. Israel may not have nukes and it may have enough to be able to completely destroy Iran. It prevents, though, sparking a regional nuclear arms race if that happens in the Middle East and West Asia. But also, this is important. Then it limits the intelligence access of your adversary. It keeps your capabilities hidden and the posture is adaptable. At this juncture, remember, Israel has been very good at intercepting other missiles and being able to keep its own secrecy for as long as it can last. Let me now bring into this telecast Sandeep Unnithan for the latest on that. Sandeep, this is where do you think it gets more dangerous as well, when there's this lack of clarity on nuclear arsenal, while we have attempted attacks at the nuclear facilities in Iran by Israel that's happening. How do you look at this situation vis-a-vis the West Asia conflict?
Well, Pooja, the fact is that Israel, as you mentioned, is believed to have acquired nuclear weapons capabilities somewhere in the 1960s. And it became the 6th country in the world to acquire nuclear weapons. Though it has never officially acknowledged the fact that it has nuclear weapons, it is, like India and Pakistan, it is not a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, which prohibits states from weaponizing and creating nuclear weapons arsenals. Now, what is playing out, Pooja, right now in West Asia, this war between Israel and Iran, it's one of the most fascinating and bizarre conflicts in the history of conflicts. You have two countries here which are separated by over 1,000 kilometers. They don't share a geographical border, and they have been attacking each other relentlessly for over 4 days now, using cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and fighter jets. Now, the point is that Iran has not had an air force of any significance for almost half a century. It literally got its last aircraft during the Shah of Iran almost 50 years ago. That's in 1979 or so. And it has offset this lack of an air force with a very powerful cruise missile and a ballistic missile fleet, and of course drones. It has also simultaneously begun a nuclear weapons program. Some believe it is a civilian program, but the fuel from the civilian plants is being enriched to nuclear capability to about 90% or so. And that is the red flag that the IAEA raised in May or 30th, when it said that Iran had begun enriching nuclear fuel over there to close to more than 80%. And that is when Israel unilaterally began striking at Iran because, as we've seen in the past, Israel, Pooja, is a very small country. It's just the size of Manipur. And for them, it's an existential crisis. If any of their neighbors, any of their Arab countries were to acquire nuclear weapons. So what they've been doing from the 1980s is to attack any Arab country in the region which is close to developing nuclear capabilities. In 1981, they struck at Osirak, which was a reactor that Saddam Hussein's Iraq had been building and trying to create nuclear weapons out of. They destroyed it. In 2007, they struck at Bashar al-Assad's reactor outside of Damascus, destroying it. There was plans for Pakistan's Kahuta reactor to be taken out by Israeli jets somewhere in the 1980s. That did not happen because India did not support that move. So here you have Iran close to acquiring nuclear weapons capability and threatening the existence of Israel for several years now.
And one can see that Israel's operations and mission has been continuously with regard to Iran's nuclear program, to be able to halt it, stop it, to not have it be encouraged.
It's an existential crisis for Israel. Pooja. The fact is that they will not allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons because you have a leadership in Iran that has consistently threatened to wipe Israel off the map. And how do you do that? By using nuclear weapons.
How do you see the Western nations here? I'm looking at United States of America, European nations, especially now that the G7 summit is set to begin. How do you look at perhaps that support coming in for Israel or against Iran? And I'm sure there will be Islamic nations that will want to come to support for Iran as well.
Well, no Muslim nation, none of the GCC countries are coming to Iran's assistance. Iran is by itself. It is a Shia nation at the end of the day. The GCC countries do not like them very much. They have issued those statements, but possibly secretly they're delighted at what's going on right now, Iran being hammered by Israel. But the country to watch out for, Pooja, is the United States of America. Now, very interestingly, Trump first issued statements. Marco Rubio issued those statements a few days back, saying they had nothing to do with what was going on and Israel has struck preemptively. But then if you look at the statements that Donald Trump has been making, he has been saying that Israel has been striking Iran with American weapons and that Iran better come back to the negotiating table. So this suggests that there is a good cop, bad cop game being played over here, because the ultimate aim of Donald Trump is to get Iran to the negotiating table and to keep them there and to sign a guarantee that they will not, create nuclear weapons. They will not manufacture nuclear weapons. That's been his focus. And that is right from the beginning. So Trump has been very consistent. Even when he was running his campaign last year, he said, look, it's such a pity that Iran is out of the whole game and we have to get them back into the mainstream. And he obviously sees Iran for its huge gas and oil potential. It's a very large, it's a hydrocarbon superpower, and he wants to get it into the mainstream. He wants to wean Iran away possibly from China and Russia and to bring it into the mainstream on terms that are favorable to the United States. Here, Israel is playing a very important role, I feel. And, there are reports, Pooja, of course, the United States has supplied Israel with weapons, but there is reports that the US warships are playing a very active role in intercepting some of the missiles that Iran is firing at Israel. And sooner or later, it's inevitable that the United States will enter this conflict if it continues for a
Massive
certain number of
political
days.
games clearly being played here, and of
Yes.
course there are different missions at play. And Donald Trump wants to take the credit of it all, but we'll see how this goes. Remember, on the ground though, apart from the targeted strikes, there are casualties being reported. There are people, civilians included, who have lost their life on both sides in Israel and Iran. So we'll be tracking that and more. Sandeep, appreciate you joining us with your perspective and fascinating historical updates as well on what this region has been going through for the past few decades. Amid all of this, remember, like in most countries, there is the Indian diaspora in Israel and in Iran. India is considering to launch the mission evacuation for the citizens in Iran. There have been escalating tensions. Iran has granted permission for foreign nationals, including Indians, to be able to exit through the land border. So India is exploring that potential evacuation. Routes could be Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan and Afghanistan. I'm talking about at least 10,000 Indian nationals, many of them students who are currently in Iran, many of them undergoing with regard to the medical courses that they have been part of. There are students at various medical and religious institutions as well. The urgency has grown following intensified Israeli strikes. There are, of course, concerned parents, especially there are many students from Jammu Kashmir who are currently in Iran. So there have been appeals and that have come in from the netas as well of JNK. Right now, distressed calls being received by the Indian government. Helplines have been put out as well by the embassy there.
After facing all this, having a point of view is थोड़ा disturbing क्योंकि हमें ऐसा लगता है कि अगर ये conflict हो भी रहा है तो it's between Iran and Israel and we are Indian students here and we are appealing कि I know it is possible for Indian government to help us. They can evacuate us. जब यूक्रेन में war हो रहा था, they did उन लोगों ने यानी ceasefire की demand की थी. I think if I'm not wrong, and उन लोगों ने evacuate किया था बच्चों को. हम चाहते हैं कि please हमें भी इस time पे करें क्योंकि ये एक दो अलग country के बीच का war है and इसमें Indian students यहाँ पे फंसे हैं जो कि अच्छी बात नहीं है and we really want help from India.
Our children are there, had gone for studies, medical studies. तो वहाँ पर बच्चे कल रात से काफ़ी ट्रॉमेटाइज्ड हैं. जो कल से स्ट्राइक्स हुई हैं वो इतनी हैवी स्ट्राइक्स हुई हैं. अगर इवैक्यूएशन इमीडिएटली नहीं पॉसिबल, एयर स्पेस नहीं मिल रही है तो फिलहाल उनको ऐसी लोकेशन पर ले चले जहाँ पर उनको बेटर मतलब शेल्टर्स मिले. बंकर नहीं है वहाँ पर. इफ यू गो इनटू द पास्ट ऑलरेडी सच ऑपरेशंस हैव बीन कैरिड आउट और डिफिकल्ट से डिफिकल्ट सर्कमस्टांसेस में. एंड आवर गवर्नमेंट इज हैविंग वेरी गुड रिलेशंस विद गवर्नमेंट ऑफ ईरान एंड दे कैन रिक्वेस्ट देम और रिक्वेस्ट से इनको सेफ कॉरिडोर दिया जाए ताकि उनको लाए.
हमारे बच्चे ईरान में पढ़ते हैं. पिछले 3 दिनों से ना वो सोए हैं ना हम सोए हैं. तो हालात वहाँ कशीदा है. हम एलजी साहब से, सीएम साहब से मोदबाना अपील करते हैं कि किसी तरह से हमारे बच्चों को वापस लाया जाए. अगर ऐसा मुमकिन नहीं है हालात की वजह से, एयर स्पेस बंद होने की वजह से कम उनको सेफर प्लेस पे दीजिए. हमें अपनी हिंदुस्तान गवर्नमेंट पे, बिलखुसूस हमारी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट पे पूरा भरोसा है कि वो ऐसा कर सकते हैं और वो करेंगे भी. लेकिन बीइंग अ पेरेंट हमसे अब रहा नहीं जा रहा है.
मेरी बेटी है, 3rd ईयर है, शहीद बेचती मैं. कल से पैनिक अटैक ऐसे गिर रही है, कोई फोन नहीं, नेटवर्क भी बंद, सारा कुछ नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. वो बोल रहे हैं कि बस हम गए. अब हमें कोई उम्मीद नहीं है कि हम दोबारा आप लोगों को देखेंगे. हमें क्यों नहीं कर रहे? इंडिया गवर्नमेंट कर सकती है, क्यों नहीं एक कॉरिडोर निकाल सकते, उनको इवैक्यूएट करवाए एज सून एज पॉसिबल. और हमें कुछ नहीं, हम एलजी साहब से रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, हम मोदी साहब से हैंड फोल्ड रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं हमारे बच्चों को इवैक्यूएट करवाया as soon as possible.
Our editor India Today Global Pranay Upadhyay joins me on 5 Live for the latest. Pranay, what is the arrangement that is being done at this juncture? Clearly, the conflict is only escalating. How possibly will India ensure that our citizens are brought back to the country? What is being done? Tell us about the helpline as well.
Helpline numbers have already been issued. Pooja, you know that the Indian embassy in Tehran has has issued a helpline number, also put out the social media messages and asked Indians, those who are present in Iran, to stay in touch with the embassy so that there should be a correspondence. If the need arises, then at the short notice, people may be asked to move at some safer location. Especially the concerns are there for the students, because you have also heard the concerned parents, you have also heard leaders, those who are expressing concerns concern regarding their constituents, regarding their
Correct.
safety in Iran. But as far as the routes are concerned, no route has been finalized as yet because various alternatives are there. But the government is assessing the situation right now. Prime Minister is on a foreign tour right now, but the government officials, those who are accompanying Prime Minister, including the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval or the Foreign Secretary and Foreign Minister Dr. Jai Shankar, they are keeping a close tab. They are in touch with the Indian Embassy in Tehran, and people, especially the students, those who are in like Gorgan, the Golestani Medical University, or in Mashhad, where these religious institutions are there, where many Indian students are there, enrolled there. So the embassy is in touch with these students. People have been asked, those who are around the conflict zone, they've been asked to go and relocate themselves to the safer zone. And if the need arises, there will be an arrangement to locate, to move them to the border crossing areas. Various other countries are also being approached by Government of India, but no plan has been finalized as yet, and therefore the Government of India is assessing a situation that how it should be executed. But the plan is being mulled over and is being worked out.
And it has to be safely done,
Yes.
especially if you're talking about these students as well, to ensure that the path will be cleared. But the situation looking worrisome clearly on the ground. Thank you very much. Pranay will be tracking all the latest on that. So that's all I have for you about what's happening in the West Asia region. This is crucial, significant, and we'll be tracking how that could impact perhaps world politics too. And the government of the centre has finally announced that the next census of India will be conducted by 2027. A Gazette notification has been formally issued. The exercise will be carried out in 2 phases. The first is known as the house listing operation that will collect data on housing conditions, household assets and amenities. Then there will be a second phase, that is the population enumeration. This will gather detailed demography, socio-economic, cultural, personal information about every individual in the household as is part of the census. Now this time, remember, you should know that the last census, national census that was conducted was in 2011 under the UPA government. The last caste census dates back to 1931. So for the first time, caste data will be collected as part of the Census Survey of India. Entire operation largely will be conducted digitally. There will be mobile applications. Option of the self-enumeration is available to citizens now via online platform. The scale of the operation is going to be massive. Remember, we're talking about over 1 billion population. 34 lakh enumerators and supervisors, along with approximately over 1 lakh census functionaries, will be deployed across the country. Now, this is something that the Congress wanted about the caste data, remember? But right after the announcement, Congress sharply criticized the government, questioning intent, transparency and scope. Congress is now raising a doubt about whether this caste data, especially concerning OBCs, will even be made public or will it be kept sealed. Remember, Karnataka caste census was done, but it's been largely discarded, not revealed in public due to alleged discrepancies in the 2015 survey. It's already been 10 years. What happens now? And importantly, can the caste data in the census survey really bring a difference to the welfare schemes, the population of the region based with regard to the kind of constituencies we look at? All of that, will that make a difference too?
You all know that the government's decision to start the census in 27 is a delayed decision. 21 should have happened, now they had pushed it to 27. And leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi ji has been demanding for a caste census, and the government of India has announced it after the cabinet meeting that there will be a caste census. We demand that the Telangana model should be adopted. We request that Amit Shah ji should not do this as a jumla, because this is a very serious exercise, and census as well as caste census are very important thing, and caste census should not end up in a jumla.
कांग्रेस का झूठ उजागर हुआ है. कांग्रेस अपने इतिहास के उसी रास्ते पे चल रही है, और ये कर्नाटक की एक्सरसाइज जो कॉस्टली एक्सरसाइज हुई है, ये आखिर इसका जिम्मेदार कौन है? और ये पॉलिटिकल कवर कांग्रेस कुछ कम्युनिटीज को भरमाने के लिए, कुछ को भड़काने के लिए, कुछ को अपीजमेंट की पॉलिटिक्स में लाने के लिए कर रही है.
So here's what you need to know as we then now embark upon the mission census. The first caste count was done. The last time was in 1931 when India clearly was under British rule. So this will be the first time since 1931 that a clear caste census is going to be done across India, modern India. Population census after a gap of 16 years, the last one was in 2011. So the 2021 census, which was scheduled but was delayed due to the COVID pandemic. So the last full census in 2011, a lot has changed in the past 16 years, and now 2025, as it's set to begin, will be completed by 2027. The census data will be out in a record 9 months. We are told after when it will be collated, it will be put together, and because it will be a digital census largely, by 2027, possibly it will be faster. How will it be done? Mobile applications, digital mode. There will be a portal for counting for the Indians, but of course there will be household visits too, depending on the regions and terrain. Aishwarya Paliwal joins me for the latest on that. Aishwarya, so 2 quick questions. One, of course, with regard to the big announcement. How do you see this politically, socially? This was a much awaited demand since 2011. But then why has a political showdown erupted? Why is the Congress not happy? They exactly wanted this.
Well, Pooja, it's a tug of war that we are now seeing which is taking place. The opposition, specifically the Congress party, is now saying that it's because of Rahul Gandhi and the demand which was made by the Congress party, because of which we are now seeing the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, coming out and saying that they will now have a census and a caste census also within the census. So the opposition now patting their backs and saying that it's because of them that the government is now making sure that they do the caste census. The government on the other side saying that this is something which was supposed to happen, and in the course of time, it is something which is happening. They are saying that we have always wanted to do it. In turn, pointing fingers at the Congress party and saying, when you were in power for almost 60 years, if you are demanding it so much, why did you not do it while you were in power? Pooja.
All right, Aishwarya will be tracking the latest on how this census begins. It will be done, remember, in a modern India with a massive population, difficult terrains, and of course, it will now put in perspective of not only population-based regions with regard to constituencies, the next elections, but also the welfare schemes as much. So we'll be tracking all that and more. Aishwarya, thank you very much. For now, I have a big news coming in. Let's take a look at that. For the first time, with the Raja Raghuvanshi, Sonam Raghuvanshi case about the murder of the young groom, the first video, the first and the last, sadly, accidentally captured of Sonam and Raja when they were on the trek. Hours after that, possibly even minutes later, he was brutally killed. And now look at that. Now this happened while they were on a trek, and these are the images released by cops, and that's why we are putting it out. One of the murder weapon. So the first time you see the murder weapon that was recovered barely a day or two after the murder itself by the Meghalaya police. But this is the first time the weapon has been recovered. One, why is the weapon important? Because that led to a certain suspicion with the Meghalaya police that this is not a weapon locally used. And therefore, it raised a lead of other outsiders involved. And now look at that visual on your screen. I want to play out specifically the trek video. This video was actually being recorded by another influencer vlogger on a tour. And in that, in the background, you see Raja Raghuvanshi walking up, and ahead of him is the wife Sonam. This was the trek that they were on, and hours after that, he went missing and then found dead. You can see Sonam looking at the vlogger as he's recording. Now, of course, this is unknown to him. He's just recording himself on a trek, that there are other people, other tourists as well. Raja also catches a glimpse, and then they continue to move ahead. So this is what they were wearing, what they were looking like on the day of the trek. Arvind Ojha for the latest on that. Arvind, पहली बार और sadly जैसे आखिरी बार जो देखा गया है ये वीडियो में सोनम रघुवंशी, राजा रघुवंशी, किस तरह से इस वीडियो को देखा जा रहा है, और जो मर्डर वेपन भी है बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, किस तरह से वो लीड बना मेघालय पुलिस के लिए।
देखिए, ये जो वीडियो आया है ये मर्डर से कुछ घंटों पहले का वीडियो है, और वीडियो में अगर आप देखें तो जो सोनम है वो खुद लीड कर रही है ट्रैक को, और जो क्राइम सीन है उसकी तरफ लेकर राजा को जा रही है, क्योंकि राजा को इस बारे में इस लोकेशन के बारे में कोई जानकारी नहीं थी। और जो ये वीडियो है, इस वीडियो से कुछ दूरी पर जो राजा है उसका मर्डर हुआ था। उसके अलावा जो शिलोंग पुलिस है उसने वेपन भी रिकवर कर लिया है, जिसकी तस्वीरें भी इंडिया टुडे के पास है। दरअसल जब डेड बॉडी रिकवर हुई थी उसके बाद सर्च ऑपरेशन के दौरान ये वेपन रिकवर हुआ था और अब इस बात की पुष्टि हो गई है कि इसी वेपन से राजा पर अटैक हुआ था कई बार और उसके बाद उसकी मौत हो गई थी। उसके बाद उसकी डेड बॉडी को खाई में फेंक दिया गया था। तो जो इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है, जो वेपन है, वो शिलोंग पुलिस ने रिकवर कर लिया है, उसको फॉरेंसिक एग्जामिनेशन
ये जो वीडियो में देख पा रही हूँ, वीडियो में देख के लग रहा है कि वहाँ और भी शायद टूरिस्ट थे, लेकिन फॉरेस्ट एरिया है, जंगल एरिया है और अगर शाम होते होते तो यहाँ पर काफी कम लोग होंगे।
बिल्कुल, देखिए ये नौंगरियाट एरिया है पूजा और यहाँ पर जाने के लिए तकरीबन 1 घंटे से ज्यादा का ट्रैकिंग करना पड़ता है। 4000 से ज्यादा सीढ़ियां हैं और अगर आप देखें तो इसमें काफी थकान, लोगों को थकान भी हो जाती है। नौंगरियाट से कुछ दूरी पर जो इलाका है वाइसेडोंग वाटरफॉल, जहां पर ये मर्डर हुआ था और जो तीनों किलर थे वो ये बता भी रहे थे कि नौंगरियाट से जब ऊपर की तरफ चढ़ने लगे थे तो वो काफी ज्यादा थक भी गए थे और इस वजह से वो मर्डर करने से इनकार कर रहे थे, जिसके बाद सोनम ने उनको उकसाया कि हिट करो, जिसके बाद फिर उन्होंने अटैक किया था। इंडिया टुडे की टीम उस क्राइम सीन पर भी पहुंची थी जहां पर जो राजा है उसका मर्डर हुआ था। उसके बाद सोनम और बाकी 3 किलर ने उसकी बॉडी को उठाकर खाई में फेंक दिया था। पूजा।
All right, Arvind, thank you for getting us these videos, these images. It's a reminder, remember, while the investigators are still tracking what exactly happened, Sonam is in custody, but every lead can help the investigators reach to the conclusion and provide perhaps some closure and justice to Raja Raghuvanchi's family. All right, on that note, I'm wrapping up the 5 Live. Thank you so much for watching.